Alright, I've shown another show and tell book on one of my sketchbooks from a certain point in time. And this is a smaller sketchbook that I just found. Yeah, and I remember why I got it small. I was just having less time to do little sketches and record things, so I just went really small. And I started doing a lot of hiking too, so a book like this really fit into my backpack when I was carrying it around. You don't want to go too heavy on things. So this one right here is it's about 5 by 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, like a 5 by 7, and this one's just a 4 by 6. A really convenient little sketchbook. Really quite handy. Looks like it has the same amount of pages, but these bound sketchbooks are the way to go if you like sketching. It's just nice. It fits on your bookshelves really well. And I was looking at this one right here. This one starts in 2001, and it looks like I have a lot of little sketches on some different hikes that I was going on. I just pulled this out when I kind of got up to a certain destination. I was doing a lot of what they call peak bagging, where you go and you try to access the summit of a lot of different ranges, and there's a whole list of them out here in Southern California, so I'm sure all over the world, but I kind of got a little obsessed with that. So this one here is in Joshua Tree, Lost Horse Ranger Station Climb. That was a certain little ranger station, like an old ranger station that's no longer in operation out in Joshua Tree. But it looks like I had little notations on kind of the different range. And out in Joshua Tree, there's just a lot of big, gigantic piles of rocks out here. And I wrote right here, entry point, and I probably came up through here, something like that, up to the summit. Yeah, here's that little road. Oh, car. Yeah, see, car. Yeah, I don't know if I can see it. Yeah, car back here. Coming up this road in the entry point, and I probably hiked up to this, or climbed up to the summit up here. But that's the way a lot of this type of stuff went. Here's another day. I was just so obsessed with Joshua Tree at the time. This is Quail Mountain. And I was doing a lot of these climbs on my own. And, I don't know, it always occurred to me. I was always very safe out there, and I know those rocks really well, but yeah, it ever occurred to me, man, if something ever happens to me, I'm toast, because there's just no way I'm going to, be able to get out of there. It's hard enough just getting up there. No one would ever find me. But anyways, San Jacinto Peak here. But this isn't just that. I mean, you can put anything in a little sketchbook like this. But what I found kind of fun was, I don't know, I was putting together a menu for about 10 to 12 people I was cooking for. I used to like having these kind of dinner parties for all my friends, where I'd put some kind of menu together and have them all over. A lot of them, there were a lot of them were my hiking friends kind of later on, and camping and backpacking. But some of these are little dream kind of things as well, and I put a few notations. Like I said, I didn't have enough time to do a lot of full drawings, so sometimes it might just be a little sketch like this, with a little description of the dream as well. Yeah, I don't know. At this point in time, I was having a lot of strong memory recall here. Some kind of a Disneyland thing where there were power line towers to look like castles. I don't think that's real. I think that was like some kind of a dream, and it's nothing at Disneyland that I have ever seen. But, I don't know, kind of crazy. But there were some other drawings in here that I saw that were really fun. I was putting together a menu. Oh, this one right here is kind of an interesting drawing. One of the few kind of more extensive little drawings, but it said it was in a World War II down in a crevice, so on and so forth. I don't know. I haven't really read any of these things. A lot of it just wouldn't make sense to me. I was looking at this one right here. I think these are just some sketches of this sand dune system in Death Valley right here. Not all of its deserts are like the Sahara Desert or anything like that, but there is a system of dunes out there. That was one of my favorite places to go. I think a former coworker of mine and I went out there, and that's probably what this is right here. The two of us kind of walking up this big ridge of a sand dune system, and it's just sand dune systems out there. Just in terms of the forms and the shading and everything like that, it's just one of the coolest places to be. And I always used to like going out there, like around sunset time, and hiking, well into the night out there. Especially if there was at least a half moon to a full moon, it would just illuminate that entire area, and it was just like, to me, it was the closest thing to kind of like being immersed in a like a living sculpture, beautiful forms and everything like that. The sand out there was just so pure. It was just it was like walking on something really soft. We'd always take off our shoes and walk out there, but I traveled out there a lot. Okay, look at this one right here. These are. I used to like doing kind of themed dinners as well, and one of them every Halloween for a couple of years I had this Halloween dinner, but I was designing these kind of different foods that might be cool for a dinner, and this was my concept on a main course. It says salmon steak right here, and then I would put a radish and olive eye. I saw these eyeballs, made out of food on some. It was probably a magazine back then, 2001. Could have been on the internet, but where they took this radish and they kind of peeled it a little bit for the most part. There was still a little red, and then you put one of those pimento types of olives in it. Okay, and it really looked like a real eye. And then that I'd put onto the salmon steak like this, and then see these legs right here. I was thinking I would make those out of asparagus, so you'd have this this creature, one-eyed creature on your plate, and it said this butter dill spread right here in the kind of the middle right here, and then asparagus legs. And I was thinking about, I used to like kind of grilling these little quail, but then at the Asian supermarkets I always saw these packages of chicken feet. And what I was thinking about doing was I would put that chicken feet into the quail like that and kind of roast it as is. But can you imagine getting something like that? It would be like something out of like a Tim Burton, dinner or something like that. And herbed walnuts and radishes. I don't know what that, maybe I'd have those on the side or something like that. Head-on shrimp, to go along with it. And these were, it says baked tomatoes with bread stuffing and olive for eyes. Okay, so it'd be like these baked tomatoes right here, but then I would put these little pimento olives on it, so it's like eating this like this eyeball. And that was that. Oh, and look at this right here. This is another thing I was thinking of, like a grilled or roasted whole red pepper. I would just leave it whole. I wouldn't seed it, but I thought it could look like a heart, something. And then I would skewer it with like a wooden stake or something like that. So it'd probably just be like a shish kebab skewer or something like that going through it. So kind of a wooden stake through the heart type of thing. But anyways, I thought that was kind of fun looking back and seeing that. It brings back some memories of some really fun times. More dream-like scenarios. It's like I was using a ballpoint pen here. I usually used a rolling writer, but maybe I ran out of them. Different sketches from some different locations. Quail Springs. Some people went out with me there. Looks like some kind of donuts and coffee or something like that. Definitely a dream type of scenario. Anytime I have like little figures like this in the foreground, that probably represented me or something like that, looking out at this in this scenario. I usually did kind of third-person perspective. Indian Cove and Joshua Tree. That's this location out in Joshua Tree. It's where I still do a lot of hiking whenever I get out there these days. Oh, this is a scenario where these three friends and I got stuck out in Joshua Tree after nighttime. We just kind of underestimated the time to get back to the car, and here we are stuck out there at night, and it's always unfamiliar areas for the most part because we liked kind of exploring these different areas, but it was just going like over ridge after ridge after ridge after nighttime, and if you're out there kind of in the dark, it's really hard to navigate because sometimes you have to go over boulders and sometimes you have to go under boulders, and every time we'd make it over a ridge like that, there was this other kind of silhouette of yet another ridge, to go over, and I don't know, we had to repeat this like several times, and it was pretty crazy because we were kind of unprepared. We had between the four of us, enough flashlights, but one of them was like this little keychain LED one where you had to like click it, so it was some crazy times out there. Another Joshua Tree excursion. I was doing these little rocks, you might kind of tell that I'm into rocks if you know the Stampscapes line. I'm very passionate about rocks and going to them. I love them. I love them in terms of the geology and how it looks within a landscape, kind of breaking up the kind of the softer forms of foliage like trees and whatnot, but I really love getting up into those rocky areas. For when you get up into the rocks, you can have this really nice expansive view. I love forests and things like that too, but I don't like walking through like 5 miles of kind of similar terrain. I want to look over things, and that's where rocks tend to come into play here. This is another Joshua Tree hike. Looks like that's all I was pretty much doing. This one's Sheep Hole Wilderness. That's a really gigantic hike that we've done several times, but this one's one where I really had to kind of make notations on kind of the routes by which to get somewhere, so I was trying to put these little landscapes and whatnot, it looks like, of how to kind of access the summit, because a lot of times when you do desert hikes, it's just not very apparent on kind of which way to go, because it's not like a designated trail. You just have to kind of follow these what they call cairns or ducks. It's where someone's piled up some rocks, but if you're one of the few people that have been up there, you're kind of on your own, and you have to go off of these kind of written descriptions. These days they might have GPS coordinates or whatnot, but I was kind of on my own, and a lot of times I was doing them by myself. Here's a drawing right here done of the lava pit out in the Mojave National Preserve. There's a friend and I went out there one time, and the lava pit was a kind of a interesting feature out in this area that looks very kind of repetitive and kind of nondescript. There's this area called the lava tube, not lava pit, and then you walk down in here, you wouldn't know that you can get down there, but you have to kind of crawl through this little crack, that you would never think twice of if you were just driving by, but then it opens up into this kind of large cavern down here with a couple different rooms where there's, I don't know, I guess this area down here, as far as I understand, it was created by this large air pocket within a lava flow. So you can go down there, and there's these kind of like almost like skylights coming down. There's like a beam of light, like right in the middle of the lava tube, and there's this another room back here. You can kind of go back in there. It's not huge or anything like that. It's like the size of like a fairly large living room, and then like a little walk-in closet-sized space back in there. But it's a well-known feature of the Mojave National Preserve. Desert Queen Mine. I used to like going into mines. They always, I don't recommend that. I would definitely not recommend it, but I always like kind of exploring those types of little areas like that. There's probably me in a mine shaft. It looks like a probably has two different access points that you can go into. Well, the mines that I'm going down, I mean, they're not gigantic and extensive. You walk back into them, and they end after a certain point in time. More rocks and whatnot. This might as well be my rock journal. Aside from that Halloween thing. Half Dome, Sentinel Dome, looking down from Sentinel Dome. I've never done that hike up to Half Dome, but I've never wanted to. There's just one gigantic procession of people. It'd be kind of interesting to do it sometime in the lifetime, but I don't know, it's never really appealed to me. I call it cattle drives when you're on these hikes where it's just like one long procession of people that you're just following behind, and there's, long, procession of people behind you. I don't know, that's not my idea of fun. Oh, this is another drawing. I kind of flipped through this before I kind of came through this, but look at this little leaf here in my little notebook. But this is one of my favorite trips, business trips, was to Maine. And I've been out there a couple times, but that's, I don't know, that might be my favorite state, and just in terms, I mean, it's so small. But I went to Acadia National Park. And man, that place was really so awesome. And I caught it in full color, as they call it. Peak fall colors. But then there's all these short trails out there, because the park isn't very big itself. So a lot of the trails are like maybe 2 miles, if that. But one of them is called the Precipice. There's all these little iron bars and things on this trail. This is kind of an exaggeration right here, but here's me kind of walking up this narrow trail, and there are these rungs that you have to climb up, go along this end. And here's kind of me up here, climbing these rungs up this one. But this is an area right here that stood out in my mind. There was this, well, I don't know, it was probably around the corner of something like this. This isn't an exact drawing taken from that area. It was just kind of my version of it, to give kind of the feeling of what that trail might have been like. But there was this one area that you got up to, and there was no bars to hold on to for about, I don't know, like 5 feet, and it was only like, I don't know, maybe 1.5 feet wide of a little ledge. And then not only that, it was kind of slanted, and then it was wet with like algae on it. And it was a big plunge down about, I don't know, maybe 300 feet. I don't know, it freaked me out a little bit. I have photographs of that on the Flickr account. But I spent a whole week out there, and I felt like I had the place to myself, because I never saw, I might have seen 2 other people on, the trails that I was doing every day. I just go hang out on the rocks, next to the seagulls and stuff, and just hang out there. Then on one day it was raining, so I couldn't really get out there, but I went to this other, kind of a satellite part of the park. It's still part of the park, but there's this gigantic crashing waves out there on this one shoreline, and no one was going out here. And there was all these cars parked there watching it, but then I thought, well, are we not allowed to go out here? So I walked out there, and suddenly, like, everyone was out there. And it's like, oh, let's go out there, But there was these big crashing waves along the shoreline like that. And that was really kind of spectacular to watch. And very fun. So I just loved Acadia. This is I don't know what that says up there. There's nothing. But I just like these expansive views. So I have these little aisles these days from Stampscapes, like these little things, And that's to kind of put out there in this little, island chain type of thing, I mean, they can be used for all kinds of other things too, but these are the types of things that, I've drawn that for, kind of in the spirit of my memories of Acadia. Yeah, like this. I didn't even think about this when I was doing these designs, but that kind of spirit, but look at that right there. So last day in Acadia, 70 slight breeze, incredible weather, less visitors it seems, sitting here in my favorite cove, listening to the waves, lapping the shore, bliss. Oh, Tiny Island from Spot. Oh my god, I named one of these things Tiny Island too. So fun stuff. Now National Preserves Carruthers Canyon. Oh, this is some kind of dream I had. Oh, there was wood post spear propelling sheep. I had a dream that some sheep had. It was like they must have been like porcupines or something like that, and able to fling spears. And it looks like at me. I don't know. Maybe I ate a lot or something. Some heavy meal before I went to sleep, and after thinking of the deserts. New York mountains. I love those mountains. Rain started. So some of these things are just kind of field notes or trip reports. Oh, this is a cave that we hiked into in Joshua Tree, and I'd looked for this cave about a year and a half ago. I thought I'd be able to find it for sure, but there was these gigantic boulders up in this little crevice, and whatnot. But this corridor here was really huge. And it was a really extensive system. It's not really a cave, it's more of like this little slot canyon made up from all these boulders and whatnot. It never really goes underground, but it's like these caves made by rocks being piled up on one another. But I really enjoy doing that type of thing. And split rock out there in Joshua Tree. But yeah, some of these areas, I when I think I have that park wired, it really shows me just how little I know. When I'm trying to look and find a fairly prominent feature that I just cannot for the life of me find again. Rubber Stamp Roundup. Oh my god, this is April 30th, 2004. Rubber Stamp Roundup. This is a Las Vegas convention that used to happen out there. But the Friday night before the show, they used to have this ice cream social. So all the stampers can go to this one kind of room in I guess it was the hotel that was hosting that convention, but the ice cream social went on in a separate room, and there was, I don't know how many people in there. It felt like 1,000, but there was demonstrations going on. But then they had this table there for just with buckets and buckets of ice cream and toppings. And you can have like an ice cream sundae or whatever you want, a bowl of ice cream, and do demonstrations and see demonstrations and do make and takes and whatnot. It wouldn't be going on right now, with that 6 feet of space or whatever, but that sure was fun back at the time. Another trip right here. Carruthers Canyon, a big hike up the Carruthers Canyon. That's Table Mountain out there in the distance, and the road leading into it. My little field drawing like that. And that's it right there. So anyways, a little book like this. This is really fun. This book right here would be a really great little... I don't see people doing it these days too much, but some people used to carry these around and they would stamp them, or they would have someone, who was doing a demonstration at the shows that, I would stamp in their book. So it'd be like their own little journal or something like that. But something like this might be fun in terms of creating your own kind of stamping journal. You can draw on it, you can stamp in it, and it can be its own page or whatever. And a lot of these pages right here, I don't know, if you're working these days with things like Copic markers or, inks like that, you'd want to throw something underneath here, but you can have a nice booklet, dedicated to whatever you wanted to stamp for the day. It could be kind of a fun little journal. I don't know how many pages are in here, but wouldn't it be cool to kind of produce some kind of little thing in here, one each day or whatever, and you can do a little kind of journaling as well. But I don't know, it's fun. The paper right here is, it's pretty decent quality. It's artist, whatever, sketchbook quality in there. So, something to think about. But anyways, okay, hope you enjoyed the little show and tell. It brings back a lot of memories for me. And I don't know, this isn't too big of a commitment, in terms of a periodic or, even if it's not a daily thing, but a little 4x6 hardbound sketchbook / journal. Kind of fun. Thanks for watching.